Hey comrades, and welcome back to the channel. I'm the Obnoxious Anarchist. As you all can see, the day has come. I'm in conversation with Jason Unruhe from Maoist Rebel News. You can check out his YouTube channel. Feel free to introduce yourself, Jason.
I am Jason Unruhe.
Nice.
I'm the guy you've probably heard somebody complain about somewhere.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, if you're not being complained about, are you really doing anything? So yeah, I guess we could just let people funnel in quickly, and we'll get started with the questions. I just have a couple of questions concerning your political journey over the years, because you have had this channel for just over 10 years. You're not
almost 12 and a half.
Oh wow. So yeah, you're no spring chicken. You've been doing this for quite a while, and I think it's important that we have this conversation.
No, this September I'm going to be hitting 40 years old.
Oh yeah, oh shit! I didn't know you were. You look quite young for your age.
Yeah, everybody says that. It runs in my family.
Yeah. Well, I get it a lot too. Every time I say I'm 30 years old, people are like, "Oh my god, you sound and look like you're 20." But it's all right. It's all right. I guess looking younger is a little bit better. Hopefully, we'll live long lives.
That's one of the reasons why I have the beard, so I stopped getting carded.
I saw that photo that you posted on your YouTube community there with the shaved beard. It looks good. It looks good. You look young. All right. So, anyways, we'll just say fucking hi to people in the chat over here.
This program brought to you by Tim Hortons.
Of course, you got a Canadian represent, even though it's owned by an American company now.
Don't remind me.
It's not so much a Canadian.
Even Molson Canadian, the beer is owned by a Brazilian company.
Oh fuck! Wow, I didn't know that. We have, I think the brewery's it's here in Montreal. We have a Molson brewery, I think.
I liked it on This Hour Has 22 Minutes. They made the joke. Molson Canadian has been bought out by Coors, owned by a Brazilian company, with their new motto, I was Canadian.
I used to be Canadian. Yeah, that's funny shit. All right, so man, Ludlow Vert, what's happening? Fucking Samus, what's happening, my dude? I haven't seen you in so long. I'm going to come visit you someday. Zidane, what's happening? Much love. All right, so we're going to get started. Jason, I'd like to start off before we get into the Maoist street code. If you could just tell us a little bit about your political journey, starting from when you first got into left-wing politics originally, and what motivated you essentially to start your channel just over 10 years ago, and 12 years ago about.
Okay, originally when I was a teenager, I was actually pretty right-wing, but it's hard to explain. I was right-wing, but I didn't know what I was talking about. Now, looking back, I had no idea what I was talking about, because then I would have realized how fucking dumb I sounded. So, I got out of high school in the year 2000, and, I had, drunk the Kool-Aid and all this shit. This is the best country in the world. There's infinite job potential for everybody. And then the real world kicked me in the fucking teeth. That ain't true. Now, this was right after two major economic events. One, the full force of NAFTA had finally come in, where they had busted all the union jobs down to minimum wage and exported a lot into Mexico. And the dot-com bubble burst. It's about the same time.
This we're talking around 2008 or?
No, this is 2000. The original dot-com bubble. When
2000, bro, I was fucking 10 years old, so.
Yeah, I was just out of high school and in the workforce at that time.
I hear you.
And NAFTA had come in 96 and screwed us. And then you had the dot-com bubble, where they had tons of stuff invested in tech companies and everything. This was going to be the best thing. And then everybody finally realized, hey, we don't actually have a business model. And you kind of have to have a business model to make money. So there was a huge crashing of tech companies. The main survivors were Amazon, which I think they went on to do well. Google and Yahoo and a few of the giants like that, who are like household names today. So during that time, and then after the dot-com bubble, there was 9/11,
Hmm.
and that just wiped out the economy really, really good. So it was like within the span of 3 years, there were three major economic events that just like completely devastated jobs.
Hmm.
So it became all of a sudden, we're like the greatest country in the world. There's infinite possibilities for everybody to, hey, I found this job that's like, what is it? You have to be 18, at least 18 years of age to have it, and 20 years experience. You know what I mean?
You know, fuck, holy shit. That culture still exists
Oh
today.
yeah. I got a job working at a furniture store in the warehouse.
Hmm.
Okay, so minimum wage, whatever. All I do is assemble furniture, loading dock, all that same shit. So what happens is I'm sitting there on my break one time, just sitting there, and you know how furniture stores have like displays for all the different, whatever. This is what a room looks like, and here's all the furniture and shit in it.
Yeah.
So they put a couple books in the shelf so they don't look loose, and one of them was the Communist Manifesto.
Oh, wow.
Because it was like a bunch of random books somebody just brought in. So I took it out, I started reading it, like, oh, okay, like all this stuff about how class was always the motivating force in change. I'm like, okay, yeah, that actually kind of makes some sense. And I read some more. Okay, that's yeah, you know what? That's actually started to kind of make sense. And then I started Googling stuff after that, learning a little bit more. And then one day when I was working security, I went to Toronto, and I went to a store that now no longer exists, called the world's largest bookstore, and it was the largest bookstore at the time. And okay, here's some books by Marx. Here's Capital, Wage, Labor, and Profit, and all this other shit. And I remember that I picked up Capital. I read the introduction. I was like, okay. And then I read like the first 2 pages of Capital. I went, wait, what? I didn't understand a goddamn thing because of the way Marx wrote.
Well, for sure. Plus, you were young too. I mean, come on.
Oh, no, not even really young at that time. I was probably about 26.
Okay, so this, you were about 26 years old when you
25, 26.
You had this furniture job and you found the Communist Manifesto. That's pretty sick.
And then I tried to read Capital, and it took me quite a while to be able to figure that out. So, hey. And so I went and basically I wrote a simplified version of it. I would read one sentence, or in case of Marx, one goddamn paragraph, because one sentence has to be a paragraph long.
Yeah.
And then translate that to plain English, and then move on to the next one.
That's a really good way of studying, honestly.
So I ended up with a book after that of Marxist economics in plain English.
Wow.
And then later I found it and I was like, oh shit, I should release this. And then it became, more time went on, and part of the generation I'm in, Generation X, is when we saw the decline from like the post-war boom to the shitstorm we have today. It was like, okay, yeah, because as you remember, one of the big movements in the mid 90s was the grunge movement.
Yeah, of course.
And then you had Kurt Cobain, and you had a lot of other anti-establishment voices who were saying there's a problem here. Now, the problem with mainstream political thought is that it doesn't explain things very well or understand things very well. So you had the grunge movement that was very, okay, there's a problem here, but we don't know exactly what it is. We know society's alienating, and there's been a lot of subculture movements since then who have also expressed that kind of alienation.
Yeah.
And I think, not grunge, I would say punk would probably have to be the first one that did it. And then when that started to peter out, then it was grunge, and then you had all these other ones. And then by the time grunge had worn out, basically all the subcultures of alienation got taken over by the corporate overlords of music.
Yeah.
So now they doesn't mean anything. It was during that time I realized what's that? I remember the name of the song, but it goes, "Everybody knows shit's fucked."
I don't know. From
I
who?
don't.
From the grunge era?
I don't remember. Everybody know. It's a more recent song. Everybody knows shit's
Mhm.
fucked. I don't give a good goddamn. Your Uncle Sam's a motherfucker. I don't want to see him again. Not to pretend. Count to 10.
I don't know.
And that's basically the feeling that I got. Okay, things are not the way that I was told that they were going to be. And I thought, okay, did I do something wrong, or did I misinterpret, or? And then I started reading Marxist theory, and like, okay, yeah, this actually kind of explains some shit.
See, that's the
And
problem. I like what you said there, but it is generally the problem with these mainstream music, let's say scenes and stuff like that. Is yes, they'll point to the alienation, but they'll never point to the material conditions that are causing that alienation to begin with. So stuff gets all lost and rambly and. But anyways, continue.
but yeah, they used to. Like if
Yeah,
you saw like rap from like what was it, like the late 80s to the early 90s.
that's true.
Well, the early 80s to the late 90s.
Hmm.
They did. And then of course then you got the corporatocracy and then like everything else fucking ruined it. And now we have mumble rap.
Yeah.
So it was all of those things. It was very much the material conditions, watching everything change, and then it was like, okay, something really isn't right here. And then it's when you do that, you start seeing that the news kind of is telling you the truth if you read between the lines.
Depends,
Like,
obviously.
yeah, like if you see CNN say, wealth disparity is getting too great in America, they're saying, do something about, give some reforms or shit's going to fall apart. If you can read between the lines, then you know what they're really saying. And then I thought, and I said this on a YouTube comment somewhere. I said to somebody, oh, hey, oh, God, these guys are such liars. They're so full of shit. And then somebody said, what, you think you could do better?
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually
Nice.
think I can do better. I really think I can. And there you go.
And that's what influenced you to make Maoist Rebel News.
See, somebody shot their mouth off at me one time, and now here we are 12 and a half years later.
Hey, I'm glad you're here. That's for damn sure.
So be
Yeah,
careful. Be careful who you say that to.
yeah, definitely. And I also wanted to take an opportunity, which I forgot to do before, honestly, to thank you for the shout outs that you've given this channel on your
Oh, no
YouTube
problem.
channel. It's, it's led to about, between 350 and 400 new subscribers to this channel. So it's really nice, and I appreciate that. As an anarchist, I appreciate the mutual aid.
Yeah, it's good because for a very long time, there really wasn't very much. I mean, in terms of the very, very old guard, there was only myself and Brendan Cooney, and Brendan Cooney seems to have disappeared off the face of the earth. Yeah, he disappeared around early 2009. I don't know. Maybe maybe his job or whatever. But he was the one explaining Capital. He was the one at the channel Capital 101.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the longest time, there was like nothing. And then Finbull showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And then for a while, it was just the two of us, and there was it was a fucking wasteland for a long time. And then I struggled through some pretty dark times then. But
Mm-hmm.
now I've noticed in the past year and a half, a lot of new, better channels, are showing up, like yours, Falcon General,
Mm-hmm.
Fellow Traveler. And okay, maybe we need to make another golden age, and that's what we need to promote.
Yeah, definitely. And I love the whole unity that's being espoused by you, especially. We have Comrade Net as well, fellow travelers getting into it. And like, obviously, we can't unite on every single thing, and we will have our debates. That's what's the good thing about the left, is that we're able to have vigorous debates, lively debates with one another. But at the end of the day, yes, I do support the concept of unity, struggle, unity. And or fuck, what is it? Is it the other way around? It's unity, struggle, unity. I think
Yeah.
that's what it is. Yes, that's what it is. 'Cause I remember once I had iterated it as struggle, unity, struggle, but that doesn't work.
Yeah, one of the things was the struggle between Marxism and anarchism. It's like they, all the stuff about authority and all that shit. And
Yeah.
it's like, okay, yeah, but do you know how fucking far away we are from that even being like a relevant thing? We are so fucking far away.
Yeah, absolutely. And even when
It's like
you read,
throwing rocks at this. It's like throwing rocks at the moon. It's
yeah, I hear you. And like we have to understand as anarchists that both Malatesta and Macno both spoke about this fact that this is a long ways away. What we're doing is we're using our anarchism as kind of like a, I don't know what the word I'm looking for here, but it's something to look forward to. It's something to look forward to. We're not just there yet, and we're going to need tactical unity with people that we might otherwise disagree with in certain times in order to achieve those goals in a concrete way, not just in your thoughts, but in the material reality. It's very important.
And in terms of things that materially exist, I mean, Antifa is one of those things that really materially exists more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So you do have to support Antifa. That's not to say that you can't be critical.
Of course.
But I mean, in terms of things that materially manifest in terms of struggle, Antifa really is like about the biggest manifestation of that in the West that there is.
Yeah, and I can say personally with my experiences in organizing anti-fascist actions here in Montreal is that, yeah, there's Marxists, Marxist-Leninists, Maoists, anarchists that come together in those black blocs. Yes, they might be more anarchist in a sense, but it doesn't mean that the Marxists stay away. We know that because here in Montreal we were fighting that law put into place by Premier Legault that would basically ban teachers from wearing hijabs. So we saw this as a fascist law, a literal fascist law, and we went out into the streets to confront the groups that were supporting this law. And yeah, everybody was united. Everybody was united. We have to learn how to unite in those moments because we're not going to do anything if we're not.
It's a fucking headscarf. Get over it.
Oh God, it's unbelievable. It's so how obsessive these people are over anyways, I don't get it. And at first they were trying to say that they didn't want nurses to wear them. They didn't want doctors to wear them. There was conversations about bus drivers not letting people onto public transit who were wearing hijabs. This was the discussion that gave birth to this final law. You know what I mean? And it's Islamophobic, fascist in its essence.
Yeah, it's really ridiculous. Like I can understand some things I can understand. Like
yeah, I get it.
Like say you're wearing a face veil and you get stopped by the cops and they're obviously going to take it off when they ID you, etc. But we're not even talking about that. We're talking about literally just covering your hair.
Yeah, it's just a hijab, and this is all coming from laws that were espoused first in France. You know what I mean? Because we have that leakage of culture from France, obviously here in Quebec, and it's disgusting. They use the same arguments. Oh, it's for secularism. It's for secularism. We don't want our teachers to be teaching children wearing a hijab, like as if that's gonna make everybody radical Muslims or something. I don't get it. Even if it did, who cares?
Yeah. About that secularism, you want to do something about that? About that cross that's in Quebec Parliament that Catholic Bash has put in?
Yeah, but they removed it.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, they did remove it. They removed it as a concession because people were saying exactly that. You want to ban fucking hijabs, but you have a Christian cross there in the National Assembly. So they did take it away, but it was kind of. I can't remember exactly, but it must have been just before the law went into effect.
Okay, so it was very recent.
Yeah, as soon as the law came into effect there, but either way, it was just to shut up the opposition, right? At the end of the day, it's Muslim teachers who are going to be and we need teacher jobs here in Montreal. We need as many teachers as possible, and what you're doing is you're alienating those people from wanting to get teaching jobs for a stupid reason. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It's not like Kids of the Future or anything, right?
What is this Kids of the Future?
Yeah.
It's a movie or something that? I don't know what that is.
No, I mean, it's not like Kids of the Future or anything.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Fuck, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And majority of the new immigrants coming into Montreal are from North Africa. So they're from Morocco, they're from Algeria. So these are people that are going to be wearing hijabs. It's so ridiculous, so ridiculous.
I mean, I'm a 40-year-old man with a mohawk. I mean, what am I really going to say about somebody wearing a headscarf?
Yeah. Solidarity, man. That's why, I could see lines of camaraderie through like different ideological standpoints, is because we could unite on these kinds of things.
I'm glad we could be united and not being stupid.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so I'll just go on with another question, and then this will be a segue into looking at the Maoist street code. So I'll ask you first: when did you first come into contact with the Maoist street code? What were your impressions of it, and what aspects of it most resonate with you today?
Okay, basically, whenever you have like any kind of organization, like even the Black Bloc has like an unwritten code that everybody basically understands.
Yeah, it's a set of tactics.
Yeah, it's a set of tactics. It's a set of understanding how things work. I mean, Antifa has the same kind of thing. And I came across this Maoist street code, and I have no idea where it came from. As far as I could tell, nobody knows where it came from. Although I have had somebody accuse me of being the author of it, but I can assure you, I actually did not. I did not create it.
I hear you. I did think it was you who wrote it too at first.
Oh, was that you?
No,
that was you.
No. I never vocalized it, but in my head, I did think it. I was like, he must have written it, and then I didn't want to ask further questions because I said, you know what, it's his right to remain anonymous, but that's not true, so that's okay.
Oh no, I wish I could take credit for that, but it's not. It's not me.
I hear you.
Basically, you need a fundamental philosophy or code by which to operate, and that's not any different than basically anything else that ever exists. Every ideology has had that to some degree or another. Even the ANCAPs have some form of this or that. Okay, now because it's the Maoist street code, obviously it's going to be Maoist, and not everybody's Maoist, but it makes very important understandings. One is that nobody on the far left, by that I mean the actual left, is in any position to take any power. It's not happening anytime soon. So to assert dominance over another one and then to wreck them is stupid.
Yeah.
It's counterproductive. It's not going to accomplish anything. Unless you're the Austin Red Guards, then you can go ahead and do that.
I know nothing about the Austin Red Guards.
Well, I know that they went into a PSL protest, hands off Venezuela, and decided to wreck it. I don't know why you do that.
Oh wow!
But anyway, this was written when George Bush was in office, so this is going pretty far back. This is going at least 2007. I think maybe 2006 this might have been written. I'm not exactly certain.
It says here on January 18th, 2005.
2005.
An anonymous message was sent, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. This is, we unite with the anarchists and what we agree with. We struggle with the anarchists and what we disagree with. Their ideas like believe that Marxism-Leninism is outdated, but Marxist-Leninists still hold relevance in the post-Soviet Eastern Bloc. This doesn't mean that you go around wrecking Marxist-Leninists. And yeah, of course you have to start mowing the lawn right now. Okay, that's fine.
Well, it's not coming through. We can't hear it. So
okay, good. And it says the first obligation of the First World Revolutionary is the obligation to sabotage the bourgeoisie of the First World, and the obligation to support the proletarian Third World. Now, that line alone leads me to believe that it might have been MIM, someone in MIM that created it. Because if you're talking like a proto-Third Worldist kind of position that far back, then that sounds like that really does sound like MIM.
What's MIM?
The Maoist International Movement.
Okay, I don't know much about it. And excuse my ignorance when it comes to Maoism, fine. Please.
They were like there was RIM with Bob Avakian, Gonzalo, and all that, and then all that imploded or exploded, however you
Mhm, mhm.
want to say it. MIM was formed out of that, and they had a proto third worldist kind of view, but they also had some, frankly, obnoxious SJW views. Like, I remember a debate that took place between them and Prairie Fire, who was the leader of the LLCO at the time. They said all heterosexual sex under capitalism or under patriarchy is rape. And
All heterosexual sex?
yeah,
But okay, that's weird.
okay, yeah. If patriarchy exists, then therefore all heterosexual sex is rape.
Okay, okay, okay.
That's dumb,
Yeah,
and
no, I hear
that's an
you.
insult to that's an insult to anyone who has been raped.
Mhm.
So because of those kinds of divisions, essentially it was Prairie Fire who broke off from MIM, who was in MIM, and founded the LLCO. So given that time period of which this appeared and the kind of proto third worldist line that's in here,
Mhm.
I highly suspect that it was actually a MIM person who created it.
Okay. And MIM existed where in the United States?
And one other country I don't remember. The only thing from MIM that still exists is the prison chapter,
Okay.
organizing and educating in the prison system.
Mhm.
As far as I know, that's the only part of it that still exists.
All right, I hear you. I'll have to do more research on that for sure. MIM in the because like a lot of it's nice to hear like other people doing like are they like taking like an abolitionist stance on prison or they're just
Yeah.
yeah, okay, it's really nice to see that, you know.
Yeah, MIM was the one who really stuck it to Robert Conquest. They were the ones who wrote up the whole thing debunking the Black Book of Communism, sent it to the publisher, and the publisher was forced to admit, okay, there were some minor mathematical errors that will be corrected in the next edition printing
Mhm.
that never came.
Oh shit.
Of course not.
Yeah. Okay, so here I guess we can start looking at the Maoist street code. I'll just start here. On January 18th, 2005, an anonymous message was sent throughout the United States and Canada titled Maoist Street Code. And there we got Mao's face right there. So how should we go about this? Should I just read it and then if I have any questions, I'll ask you. If you want to stop me at any point, stop me and you can clarify.
Yeah, sure. It's only
So good.
3 pages.
Yeah, it's not that long. So yeah, we'll read this and then we'll see from there. We'll interact a little bit more with the audience. Let's say, so Maoism in the first world is not Maoism in the third world. The only way to hold high the great red banner of Marxism, Leninism, Maoism in the first world is to build up the first world lumpen proletariat. The labor aristocracy is the enemy of revolution. It is the first world lumpen proletariat that must be revolutionized, recognizing that the base of revolution can only be found in the third world. Okay, so firstly here, I guess we could, I would say like, okay, so how do you conceptualize the lumpen proletariat and the labor aristocracy? If we could just talk about those two terms specifically a little bit.
Yeah. Most of the first world working class is bought off. And usually it's bought off. It's not great, but
Mhm.
it's enough to prevent people from willing to go to the point of picking up a rifle and risking their lives. That's not to say that the working class is great. I mean, even the US tends to be that kind of exception where things are worse than anywhere else. I mean, even if you look at the social democracies of Western Europe and you walk up to someone in like Sweden or Finland who has universal health care, all these guarantees, protected housing, and say, here's a rifle, go and
Yeah,
kill the government, they're going to laugh in your face.
definitely. Or they'll fucking call the cops.
They'll call the cops on you themselves. But in places like America, most workers, it's not worth it to them. It's not worth. Your revolution generally comes from people where revolution is the only solution,
Mm-hmm.
and for a lot of lumpen people who basically have nothing, there's like nothing at all. that's a much more rational choice to take. You can argue to what degree or another they'd be willing to engage in any revolutionary work. But I think that this is the major break that needs to be made from classical Marxism. Marx said that the lumpen proletariat was a waste of time. He basically called them degenerates and whatnot. And I thought that was a really funny thing for a guy who liked to get drunk and smash windows. Like he would like get drunk, ride a donkey through the streets of England, and smash windows. Like,
Holy shit!
like,
This is
who the fuck are you to call other people degenerates? Like, what the fuck?
That's hilarious. Yeah, so like Marx did conceptualize the lumpen proletariat as this classless strata of people who were unthinking, to use his words and stuff like that. So I could see where you're saying he was just calling them a bunch of degenerates and stuff. Yeah.
But in terms of finding people willing to carry out that kind of violence who would see the rationale in destroying the system, that would make sense. The lumpen would be the better class to use. Like I say, even in like the first world, you get a lot of people like say, oh, we got to reach the unions and we got to reach the workers and whatnot. I go, walk up to a union construction worker, even in America, who makes like $80,000 a year, who's got like 2 trucks, a house, and a 401k, and he's not going to give that up to pick up a rifle and go fight. I mean,
no, definitely.
It's not in his material. It's not in his material interest to do so.
It's in his material interest to uphold that system, which allows him to, and definitely. And I would say that like it's mostly because here in Canada, that type of phenomenon happens mostly with like already unionized workers, so like state unions and stuff like that. So the construction workers, hospital workers, and that's what generally happens is they end up taking on this position where they are in a somewhat higher class than the rest of the working class because they have access to great benefits, they have better pays than everybody else, and that means that they're not so willing to enter into other actions that might benefit, let's say, non-unionized workers, for instance, because we still have a lot of workers in the West here who are just not unionized, who are still in very precarious situations.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, so that's what I would call the labor aristocracy, is those unionized workers who are already established. They get better benefits than everyone else. They receive better pays than anyone else, and it sort of disconnects them from the struggles of everybody else, I would say. So but on the case of like recognizing that the base of revolution can only be found in the third world, personally, I don't think I agree with that, because I think that there is a revolutionary base for revolution here in the first world, let's call it, and it is in some of those non-unionized precarious jobs, restaurant workers who are constantly on the who are constantly in fear that they're going to be just replaced by someone else who could move a little bit faster, other types of jobs, gig economy jobs and stuff like that. So a little disagreement there, but yes, I do believe in the revolutionizing of the lumpen proletariat. And there are lumpen elements within the working class. Like you can have somebody who works a full-time job, but like, has drug addictions or suffers from different disabilities, like things like this. So I guess I should just go on and continue reading. You don't have a comment on that?
No.
No.
It's an obvious point of disagreement.
Okay, perfect. So the first world working class is ruled by the labor aristocracy, which connects itself to the middle class. The first world working class is usually labor aristocracy. Even when the first world working class is separate from the labor aristocracy, there is no lasting proletariat. So yeah, this basically goes against what I said, but as we said, it's just a minor disagreement, So the original Black Panther Party, as they were in the 1960s and 1970s, is the first prototype to Marxism, Leninism, Maoism. With a study of the original Black Panther Party, correct analysis can be comprehended and advanced. Do you want to make a comment about the Black Panther Party?
There's a little bit more of it there, so I would say. No, I mean, like, there's more to that.
Oh, okay.
In continuing, so you might as well go ahead with that.
Okay, so you want me to read now? Mao Zedong thought is not okay.
And then I'll comment when you finish that.
Absolutely, no problems. So Mao Zedong thought is not Marxism, Leninism, Maoism. Comrades, I'm learning too as I read. Don't worry. So Mao Zedong thought was the Marxism-Leninism of China. So that's the Marxism-Leninism that was being applied to the material conditions of China at the time. At the time of Mao Zedong, the original Black Panther Party, as they were in the 1960s and 1970s, applied Marxism-Leninism, Mao Zedong thought to their own conditions, suffering under the brutality of the police, obviously white supremacist hegemony. The Black Panthers took advantage of the contradictions in the capitalist republic more commonly known as the United States of America, or the United Snakes of America. What the Black Panthers did was legal deterrence. So please, if you could just let us know exactly what is legal deterrence and how did the Black Panthers engage in legal deterrence?
Okay, the main aspect of legal deterrence is doing things that are perfectly legal. For example, gun laws. It's legal to own a firearm. Get yourself a firearm.
Mm-hmm.
Act in according to the law, so that if there's a situation that ever comes up, like the old patrols that the Black Panthers had when they were patrolling their own neighborhoods.
Yeah,
stuff like that. Perfectly legal to do. If you have the opportunity, sue the cops. Conduct a resistance that is fully in compliance with the law, so they can't say anything. Like if you went out and broke the law in retaliation for something, then they've got something to arrest you for. But if you do something according to the law, according to the very philosophy of the United States, like gun ownership, private property, etc., what are they going to do? Mm-hmm. Undermine their own basic core beliefs?
Yeah.
It's not saying that's all you should do. They're saying that at this stage, perform the legal deterrence, do what you can. Like they said, the contradiction. One of those contradictions is in gun ownership. Gun ownership is a threat to the system, but it is also a core tenet of the system itself. Exploit that by being armed.
Absolutely, and we can also get into other things like civil disobedience, because we do have a legal right to civilly disobey unjust laws. And obviously it's a gray zone, and police will still arrest you for a bunch of things and stuff. But I think that that's included in this legal deterrence. And obviously, if you have the means to be able to sue the police, for sure go and do that. But that's not accessible to everybody. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And we don't really do much suing here in Canada anyway.
Yeah, heavy suing is really more of an American thing. But I suspect that's what this was written for anyway.
Okay, more for the United States. Yeah, I hear you. But there are also things that we could do here in Canada, absolutely. And as we go down into the Maoist common law and the street code, it'll become more crystallized. But for this moment, I'll just continue reading. Unless you have anything to say, Jason.
No.
All right, so Marxism, Leninism, Maoism emerged as the new revolutionary path to be upheld by the revolutionary internationalist movement. So this is the RIM that you were talking about, right?
Yes.
RIM. And the evidence was the shining path led by Manuel Ruben Abimael Guzman. I can't pronounce these fucking names.
Guzman.
That's it, Guzman. The revolutionary internationalist movement was destroyed by Guzman, has become a reactionary. This does not stop Marxism, Leninism, Maoism. And this is really good, because we shouldn't let groups be dismantled and dislodged just because of the actions of bad individuals. So if you please can explain, how did Guzman become reactionary?
Well, it says that RIM itself became reactionary. Now, it's kind of a delicate thing. There are questions as to what role Bob Avakian may have played in the destruction of RIM. I wasn't around at the time, so I can't say anything firsthand. But there are people that do claim that Bob Avakian had a hand in ruining it.
Okay.
I can't go into details because frankly, I really don't have them.
Hey, no problem. We can just continue here. It's no problem.
But something I did want to make on that is that given the obviously different countries have different material conditions. The material conditions of the Soviet Union, or Russia to become the Soviet Union, were different from China.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the main mistake that Marxists in the West do is that they try to, copy paste from the Soviet Union.
Mm-hmm.
But America has a context that that does not equal that of Eastern Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest. Eastern Europe was never a settler colonial state. They had colonies, but they were never the colonies themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Now, of course, this goes into native rights, black struggle, etc. That was never the case with Cuba. That was never the case with China or Russia. They were different. They were entirely different situations. You cannot confront, or you cannot do revolution in the United States, Canada, without confronting colonialism.
Absolutely.
Or settler colonialism.
Absolutely.
That is the unique context that the vast majority of communist parties in the West don't take into account, because they have this idea, oh, well, if we just do revolution, then we can do all the ironing out of inequalities, which is true. The problem is that getting to the kind of unity necessary to create that revolution requires dealing with settler colonialism before the revolution takes place.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I'm really happy you said that. I actually have goosebumps, to be honest with you. We do have to take care of those things before any kind of meaningful revolution could take place. And I would even go so far as to say that Frantz Fanon was correct in saying that within the settler colonial context, it's not going to be class that needs to be dealt with first. It's race. And obviously those things are superimposed most of the time. But yeah, we do need to deal with this racist colonial state that we stay in Canada specifically. All right, so should I just continue reading, or did you want to continue your comment?
Oh, no, I finished.
You're good? Yeah, it's very, very important what you just said. And a lot of people don't understand that. So people's war in the third world and legal deterrence in the first world. The third world must carry out people's war. This is evident. Absolutely. Yep. Advancements in people's war in both theory and practice can only be discovered by the third world Maoists. What the first world Maoists have to maintain is legal deterrence. This legal deterrence can only be done by establishing a common law for revolutionaries in the first world. So what does that mean, a common law for revolutionaries in the first world? Yeah,
they're basically saying the Maoist street code, which is right after that.
Okay,
that's specifically what they're referring to. I mean, you have to have a guideline. If you don't have a guideline, then you have absolute chaos, and then nobody knows what anybody else is doing. Like, I've seen footage from the Black Bloc where it was a bunch of anarchists going to a protest, and the video was titled "Police Agent Found in Black Bloc." So it was like a group of anarchists, like maybe 10 people.
Mm-hmm.
And they kept turning the camera back. Like it was one of the people who had the cell phone camera. And there was two guys standing there in military poses, far larger than everybody else. And it was like, they're saying, yeah, these guys are cops. And they're saying, like, the guy at the camera was saying, these guys are cops. We know that these two guys are cops. Like, it's pretty obvious. They won't talk to anybody. They won't say anything. They won't answer anybody if they talk to them. And you could tell by their physical appearance, they are cops.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, why don't you just turn off the camera and kick their ass? I mean, if you know those fucking guys are right there trying to entrap you, do something about it.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
I would never advocate committing acts of violence against the police.
Oh,
We are
no.
talking in
That
a hypothetical situation.
no, absolutely. And those two people, we don't know. If somebody comes into your group and doesn't want to talk to other people, you can honestly look at them as somebody who's coming in with to be an adversary. So it's normal. And I've always fucking said, I've always critiqued Black Bloc for this reason. And even in conversations that I've had with other comrades in terms of like, um, understanding infiltration and trying to like point it out and locate it and stuff like that. The problem with the Black Blocs is that if there's going to be anybody who infiltrates, the motherfucker will be in Black Bloc. There's no denying it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, we need to be able to have structures like this so we can point these motherfuckers out and be able to, if not beat the shit out of them, then at the very least marginalize them to the side and make it clear that no.
Keep an eye on them.
Yeah, absolutely, keep an eye on it. And there's security groups at protests and shit that do this. Like it does exist, you know. So
like what is it like during the who was it? It was George Floyd, and the one that was selling the cigarettes.
Eric Garner.
Eric Garner. Yeah, before the protests happened, like people noticed that, like workers were coming in and dropping down pallets of bricks.
Yeah, I've heard about stuff like that. Yeah,
I've seen the footage. I've seen the videotape of it, and they come in and there's like this pallet full of bricks right in the area where they know the protest is going to take place. Like, wow, you're not even trying.
No, that's it.
Well, thanks for the free bricks. I mean,
that's it. But I much prefer if you're going to throw bricks, rip up the cobblestone.
It's when you have something so decentralized and everybody's anonymous, it's very easy to send agent provocateurs into the group. I mean, normally you would just wait for it to start and then sneak one guy in on the crowd, but to be dumb enough to just send two guys in a group of 10 people is going to be noticed right away. I gotta wonder what the hell they were thinking.
Yeah, a lot of the times, honestly, we can always tell whenever there's cops at the protests because they're wearing like kind of clothing that like a 14-year-old punk anarchist might wear. So what we do is like when we find these weirdo motherfuckers just walking around the protest all alone and stuff like that, what we do is we try to go behind them and we say, "Hey, constable," and just to see how they react and shit. It's funny. It's very funny.
Should probably go home, bacon bits.
That's it. You should probably take a fucking hike. Get out of here, bud. But yeah, that's it. And then there's also the problem of people filming within Black Blocs and stuff like that. And if you try to inhibit someone from filming, they have the footage of you like pushing your hand, and then it's not good for optics. But at the end of the day, personally, I don't really care about optics too much because I'm not trying to look good to my enemies. So
yeah, like I mean, I think it's actually important for Black Bloc people to record their own stuff. I think it's important for people like me, if I ever get the chance to be anywhere near a Black Bloc protest, to be able to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, are you going to leave the narrative to the mainstream media?
No, absolutely. But then there are always just security concerns with that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
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 Yeah,
I'm just saying, blur out faces and stuff like that. But we should never let the mainstream media be the ones with all the footage and the ones with all the information, because they will twist it into their narrative. And I think it's important that we tell our own stories, we push our own points of view, and try to provide a counterbalance of information and storytelling that the mainstream media is going to give.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's a huge part of my channel is that I'm trying to take back and say, look, as anti-fascists, we are normal human beings. We work 40-hour jobs every day. We're not just people who want to just go out and destroy things. We are legitimate political actors. And but the thing with that is, like, of course, I've brought phones and I've tried to film different parts of Black Blocs and stuff like that, but people just generally don't like it, even from a comrade, you know what I mean? Because even those blurs and stuff like that, cops have like programs to be able to remove them. I would say, listen, if you're going to a Black Bloc protest, just don't wear anything that's noticeable, because There was that one girl in the United States. She got arrested. I think she had some part in lighting a cop car on fire or something like that, dude. And they found a tiny little logo on her shirt, and they were able to track it back to Etsy transactions, and they found the person and they arrested her.
Wow.
Yeah, so like honestly, don't wear any logos, nothing that could make you distinguishable from anybody else. And this doesn't only have to happen in anarchist protests. This should be this should be a tactic that's used by all leftist protesters, because right now we have surveillance state did not exist during the times of the Soviet Union. People could go out and revolt with their faces shown. Now it's a different story. Protect yourself and protect your comrades.
Yeah. And if you are going to use footage, don't blur it. Just put like an absolute black, a black block right over it.
Yeah. I personally think that there are ways of doing it. And Jason, I do agree with you when I say that we should have people. And like here in Montreal, there are certain like submedia.tv. Sometimes they send in what they call video ninjas, and they go in and like everybody in the black bloc knows, okay, this person is cool. They're allowed to take footage. But if you see anybody else, don't hit them or anything, but just kind of obscure the view. Try to stand in front of their cameras, make them uncomfortable, you know what I mean? And usually they just leave by themselves. But anyways, we can move forward with this. Are you down, Jason?
Yeah.
All right, so the Maoist common law, the street code, and international stance. Let's start with this. Marxism, Leninism, Maoism can only be grasped by understanding the fundamentals of the enemy. The enemy of the proletariat is the enemy of all revolutionaries. The Patriot Act, signed by President George W. Bush, is a contingency plan to put down revolution and a furthering continuation of COINTELPRO. Do you know anything specifically about the Patriot Act that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, I remember when it first came out and how, frankly, frightening it was. I remember the concerns that a lot of security individual liberty. See, that's kind of really the messed up thing. There was only two groups of people that were actually really speaking out against it. That would have been radical leftists and radical rightists. They were the only ones speaking out, and you can label or frame those two groups as the enemy in that situation. So I think, other than that, the mainstream everyday regular person was so freaked out after 9/11 that they did wholly take that on. I mean, even some of the more critical ones were like, well, you have to give up some freedoms in order to be secure, kind of thing. But there was no real opposition in the mainstream to it. It was only like the far right and the far left that had any kind of and not even all the far right, because a lot of neo-Nazis were in support of it too, because the brown people, it was more like the ANCAPs that were, when I say far right, rather than saying neo-Nazis, that were concerned about it. And then, of course, anybody who was concerned about it was secretly an enemy.
Yeah, I'm glad you made that distinction, though, and it is true. And as we looked at before, like, if the left doesn't look at the lumpen proletariat as a revolutionary force, the right certainly does, and that's that's where it could be our downfall. So, should I continue?
Sure.
All right. So, Maoists in the First World, well versed in the correct line of revolutionary science for our time, requires that we know that what determines revolution in the First World is the lumpen proletariat. The First World lumpen proletariat lost class consciousness due to the efforts of this counterintelligence program, as you said. You know,
I actually would argue that that's not as true as it used to be.
Okay, in what way?
Written in 2005, in the era of, when the war on terror was a big thing, a lot of class consciousness was lost. A lot of it became us versus them, and them being the East. Mm-hmm, so I would say that actual line there about most of the class consciousness having been lost isn't necessarily true anymore. Things have changed since 2005. I mean, pretty much most people think the war on terror is complete bullshit anyway.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's fucked up. I wanted to say something, but we'll go after. I'll continue reading. We must reawaken the lumpen proletariat to class struggle. And this is easier said than done, absolutely.
Yeah.
The obligation of the First World Revolutionary is the obligation to sabotage the bourgeois First World. It's very important. The First World Revolutionary has another obligation, an obligation to the proletarian Third World. Exactly. We need to understand that we have much more in common with the workers around the world than we do with the billionaires in our own countries, and this is
Of
where,
course.
yeah, and this is where nationalism, can be a very big downfall in terms of uniting the class for the class struggle, or rather, I should say, uniting against the class violence of the bourgeois. So let's continue reading from there. Maoist common street law dictates, as it must, an infringement against anarchists is an infringement on Maoists. Maoist common street law dictates, as it must, an infringement against Marxist-Leninist Maoists is an infringement on anarchists. See, this is what I love: is that an injury to one is an injury to all.
Because the state's not going to make it is not going to make a differentiation between us.
No, absolutely. We're just far right radicals, and when they say when they start coming down and arresting all the anarchists, don't worry, they're coming for the communists too.
Oh yeah,
and
I
vice
didn't
versa.
when they came for da da da. I said nothing because I wasn't blah blah blah. It's a good point to remember.
Absolutely, like the echoes through history as well.
Yeah.
So where were we here? We unite with the anarchists on what we agree with, and for any anarchists, we unite with the Marxist-Leninists and the Maoists on the things that we agree on, and we what do we do here? And we struggle with the anarchists on what we disagree with. Marxism-Leninism is outdated. However, Marxist-Leninists hold relevance in the post-Soviet Eastern Bloc. I'd like to just ask a little question here. How is Marxism-Leninism outdated?
In terms of understanding the particular material conditions, I think that we've really moved past Lenin's time.
Mm-hmm.
For example, we know that the working class is not, say, basically the orthodoxy is that the industrial working class is the center. Was it the center in China?
No.
Was it the center in Cuba?
No.
Vietnam, Korea? No, it was very much. In fact, Vietnam and Korea were very much national liberation struggles, as opposed to workers' revolutions. And China and Cuba were very much peasant-backed.
That's right.
So this kind of idea, for example, most of the world has been urbanized. There really isn't much in terms of a global peasantry anymore. Mm-hmm. We went from having, massive amounts of peasantry across India and the rest of Asia, and now we have massive shanty towns. Mm-hmm. We have the NAFTA kicked millions upon millions of farmers off their land and sent them into the cities looking for work, and a lot of them ended up in the maquiladora sectors doing stuff for U.S. companies, because part of the NAFTA agreement was to get rid of Article 14 of the Mexican Constitution, which guaranteed land distribution to the poor. And then part of that was to take the cheap corn that was heavily subsidized or still is heavily subsidized in the U.S., flood it into Mexico, destroyed all the corn farmers, and the corn farmers had to give up and go into the cities looking for work. So there's been a massive urbanization of the world's population in the past 60 years. Or I should say 70 years now.
And you have a very similar trajectory with China as well.
Yeah, very, very much so.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, then there's the whole thing about the U.S. and a settler colonial state theorized by the Black Panthers, which is not in ML.
I hear you.
But most of the ML theory is still perfectly applicable to the former Soviet bloc countries, because they're still in those kinds of material conditions, a new form of the same material conditions.
I hear you. Yeah, and I would agree with that, definitely. All right, so I'll just continue here. Attacks and infringements on Maoists damage the work of Leninists. Thus, it cannot be tolerated. We must struggle against the narcotics flooding the urban streets of the first world. And this is very important because, the bourgeois state can use drugs as a way to really dull down revolutionary train of thought.
Oh God, if anything's done damage to the Black Panthers, it's been drugs.
Absolutely, and just in city areas and just working class people in general, like it's just destroying us. And now they're doing it even with the legal drugs and all that shit.
See, now this is something that I kind of had to struggle with. I don't think it's any secret that that the FARC anymore, but at least did at one time sell cocaine to raise money. Yeah. And a lot of people argued, well, there's no actual proof that they did. And my position was, if they don't, they're dumb. I mean, that's millions upon millions of dollars you could get for funding a revolution. I mean, you need money. You need money. Absolutely. You need money for guns. You need money for all this kinds of stuff. And I made the argument that, I mean, is it really a big deal if, they sell cocaine to a party drug to Americans? Is that really a big deal?
And if they don't do it, the right will.
The CIA is going to do it,
and they do. They do. So I don't like pointing to organizations like the FARC, like you said, and saying, oh, they peddle in drugs. They peddle in drugs. No, we need to be turning around and saying, how is our government peddling in drugs?
Yeah, I mean, the CIA and the history of drugs, but that's massive.
For sure,
massive history. One thing I did want to add, because this did come up with a lot of other things, was that you saying it's okay to sell drugs. For a long period of time, Mao was an opium warlord.
Oh wow!
I mean, there was two forms of cash during a long periods of the struggle. That was silver and opium. I mean, opium was as good as cash during that time, and you would have cadre go into a wealthy landlord's house and say, give us your silver and your opium. Oh, I don't have any. They would take one of the guy's relatives, beat the shit out of him, and say, do you know where it is now?
Yes, I do.
And then they would take the guy's opium or take the guy's silver, or both, ideally, and they would use that as cash. I mean, you have to. Yeah. You need money to fund it. That's not just necessarily to say that Mao was trying to get the country addicted to opium, because I think the British already accomplished that.
Yes, absolutely.
But I mean, in terms of real revolution, I mean, Stalin robbed banks. Is that any better or worse than robbing banks? I think that's speaks a lot to the first world mentality of the moral outrage of doing these things in order to achieve the goal. I mean, a lot of the people who I see complain about things like that, like taking the opium and the silver, are the same kind that say vote blue no matter who. And I'm like, dude, I don't think you're in any position to talk shit about tactics.
I think that those kinds of people that you're talking about would much rather the silver and the opium be in the hands of the wealthy landowners and all that stuff. Which is unfortunate. But yeah, sometimes we have to utilize shitty tactics that we wouldn't otherwise use when fighting monsters. And that's why it's important. Like, yeah, we need to make sure we don't become monsters as we're fighting monsters, but in a way it kind of forces us to. Because
serve the people.
Absolutely.
And that's how you keep it straight.
Absolutely. And like a
lot of the NPA in the Philippines, they run a protection racket on construction companies and stuff like that. It says, hey, you got your payment there for protection? No? Oh, okay. Well, a bunch of your construction equipment just burst into flames.
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes you got to use the dirty tactics against
people.
And
most of them are U.S. companies anyway, so fuck them.
Fuck it. Yeah, I agree 100%. Look, at the end of the day, it's like, dude, if you're not going to use the dirty tactics, your enemies are going to be using them against you day in, day night, and they're not even going to be thinking about it. It's going to happen with no problem. So anyways, let's continue here. So we ended here with the narcotics. We must struggle against racism because it destroys class struggle. I'm going to repeat that. We must struggle against racism because it destroys class struggle. We must protect anarchists when they're under attack by the fascists. And that's one thing that when we're seriously out in the streets being seriously attacked by fascists, I never understood why more people don't mobilize behind us. But at the same time, just being socialist, communist, anarchist, it creates a lot of social dissonance anyway. So I get it.
Yeah.
We must protect the poor because we can never win them over if we show apathy. Yes, of course. We need to care about their struggles. Their struggles are our struggles.
Yeah, that really should be. Yeah, that's obvious.
Yeah. Yet we must never give in to a counter-revolutionary appeals to emotion. Would you like to expand on this a little bit?
Yeah, actually, what we were just saying there. Don't do that. That's too mean. That's a perfect example of that. No names, but I'm pretty sure we all know who we're referring to, or the kinds of people that we're referring to.
Yeah, there's quite a few, and the problem is it's getting more and more popular on the online sphere. That's what's unfortunate,
Yeah, I don't think that's a coincidence either.
Me neither. All right. So as you said, serve the people.
Yeah.
Combat liberalism, defend correct ideas, reject incorrect ideas. See, this is where it all goes into the dialectical thinking, the critical thinking. You need to look inwards, and you need to look at all sides of the equation before you make an opinion.
I would add that I think that a lot of it turns into this and this is mostly online stuff that turns into like this kind of factionalism.
Mm-hmm.
This is my preferred leader and his thing. Okay, look, there's good and bad theory out of every leader.
Absolutely.
Take what's good and reject what is bad, like it just says there, and stop with the this is my preferred leader. So, and by that I'm speaking mostly to the Gonzaloists and the Hojas who take the loyalty to the individual too seriously.
And you know what? I would even speak to anarchists here and say that not all Marxist-Leninists are lunatics. You need to start looking into Marxism. Like, you can't just reject every single socialist revolution that has happened around the world as some kind of authoritarianism bad. No, we need to be learning from these struggles. Even if we don't take everything, take the parts that work, apply them to the material conditions that you have right now, and this is the way that we move revolution forward, in my opinion. So, serve the people, combat liberalism, defend correct ideas, reject incorrect ideas. Marxism, Leninism, Maoism is the highest stage of Marxism. Until someone else comes around.
Yeah.
Or a group. It doesn't necessarily need to be a person. Me, I think what's embodied in one person should be spread out among like 9, actually. But
yeah,
that's just my opinion. Is the highest stage, and this Maoist street code is the constitution of Maoism in the first world. It is correct to rebel against reactionaries. Absolutely. It is correct to show solidarity for anarchists when they need it. And anarchists should be showing solidarity with Maoists as well. Maoists here in Montreal, they do good fucking work. Where was I? It is our obligation to struggle with anarchists when we see incorrect views propagated by them. And one of those views, I could say personally, is these factions within anarchist thought saying that we need to reject all types of organization. Like, dude, this is counter-revolutionary type of thinking, in my opinion. I don't know if you have an opinion on that, Jason.
Oh no, I'll leave the criticizing the anarchism to the anarchist.
Absolutely. Here we go. So, it is even correct and necessary. See, you're a very respectful guy. Yeah. I don't know what people say online, bro, but you're respectful. It is our obligation to struggle. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Generally speaking, I'm not respectful to them once they piss me off.
Yeah, but I mean that's anybody. If anybody shows disrespect to me as an individual, then I might push back with a little bit of disrespect. But sometimes I like it when people show me disrespect because it shows that now they're reaching a point where they're a little bit more emotional. You know what I mean? And they might let their emotions get the best of them.
To be hated by the enemy is not a bad thing, but a good thing, as Mao said.
Absolutely, and I'll hold that statement high. So yeah. We need to establish rebel journalism. Everybody check out Maoist Rebel News on...
Yeah. We need to find somebody for that.
We got him. So we must establish rebel journalism with a serious stance...
we should, like, not even just me, like, everybody.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
The more people there are doing it, the more voices, the way we can drown out the shit stains, and we know who that is, the rad libs.
I hear you. And yes, honestly, like, I know a lot of people who want to get into left-wing politics suffer from shyness or anxiety or anything like that. All I want to say here is that if you want to create a leftist YouTube channel and you're shy, message me. I'll talk to you. I've been dealing with anxiety disorder for my whole life, so I get it. But the important thing is to challenge yourself, push forward, and fight for the correct ideas.
Yeah, and just to be perfectly honest, depending on how big you get, it's not going to be easy. Like, I've had people threaten to kill my family. I've had people call up my relatives and say that they were going to kill them if I didn't stop being on YouTube and stuff like that. So shit can get out of hand. Just to let you know.
No, and I in this channel I take the approach of that I don't want to sugarcoat things, like being like Huey P. Newton says, like every revolutionary must first understand that they're doomed. Like it's not easy. It's not easy, and the elation and the ecstasy that we get when we have minor victories are few and far between. Like they are worth it, but they're few and far between. And I think we need to understand that pain and negativity, dude, it's not working against you. Your anxiety is trying to tell you something important. Anyways, we're gonna move forward with this, or else it's gonna become a psychology.
Yeah.
We must establish rebel journalism with a serious stance against imperialism, colonialism, and fascism. We must develop self-reliance and self-defense programs. We must form rebelling cooperatives that do not exploit the third world. It's very hard to do that, I would say.
Yeah, I would say that's basically impossible.
Yeah,
I mean, cobalt's coming out of Africa no matter what.
Absolutely, and like,
but you can do stuff to help. I mean, you're not going to be able to create a cooperative that's going to then go on to make a multi-billion-dollar mining company that's going to be able to be fairly. I mean, that's not going to happen.
No, that's it.
I mean, the global economy is so completely integrated and dominated by monopoly capital that it just ain't happening.
No,
hey,
that's it.
Anytime you got a chance to do a worker cooperative in capitalism, I mean, you are essentially exploiting yourself. But I mean, exploiting yourself is a fuckload better than being exploited by someone else.
Absolutely, I see eye to eye with that take on cooperatives under capitalism as well. And even if you do want to start a cooperative, like majority of if you're just serving food or something like this, like majority of the products that you're going to be getting are from the third world. So that's just undeniable.
And there's no way around that. It's like there's no ethical consumption under capitalism kind of thing.
That's right. So we must create eco-friendly plans to ensure the survival of the planet, or we will all perish. Exactly. If we don't focus on an eco-centric way of living our lives in the future, the human species will not survive.
Yeah, I mean, there's no point to revolution if literally the population is dead.
That's it, And I'm not one of those like fear mongers that say like, oh, okay, it's going to be the end of the world in 10 years. But dude, it's something that we seriously need to be taking serious for the next 10 years, let's say. So we must lift up Native Americans and help them in their struggle against colonialism. 100% indigenous solidarity until I die. As much as I possibly can. I know that I haven't done as much as I could, but it is hard, We must stand with radicals who combat fascism. It is counter-revolutionary to ignore the dangerous, incoherent fascist reactionaries and their political movements. We must build Antifa cells with anarchists, or we may all very well make up in prison camps.
Yeah.
Wake up. That's right. Yeah, it's definitely true. If we don't work together, they got us.
Yeah, the Rex 84, the FEMA camps, they really do exist.
Yeah, absolutely. The FEMA camps. Okay, I think I saw some footage of that.
Yeah, that was a big thing in. That
was like with Jesse Ventura and shit.
Yeah, and in 2008, that was really a big thing. I mean, the FEMA camps really do exist. They materially do exist. There is footage of them. I mean, of course, the problem is that the dialogue around it is dominated by conspiracy theory nuts.
Yeah.
And that's why we have to have our own narrative and our own analysis, because if you don't, then that's what gets out there.
That's what I've always hated about conspiracy theories is that, dude, it takes these real life situations and it veneers them with this like bogus fucking conspiracy theory shit. So it's either you get into the conspiracy theory and you start believing a complete lie, or you just think it's bogus. In either way, we're not getting any closer to the truth there.
Yeah, and all conspiracy theories generally come down to one thing: capitalism didn't do nothing.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, let's talk about this shadowy upper class and stuff like that. We're not going to say it's the capitalist. It's the Jews.
Or it's the Satanists.
Yeah, or that's it. So we're never pointing in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucked up. So here it says the Native Americans hold the key to saving the environment. Now, I just wanted to say one thing here is that although I do believe that a lot of indigenous peoples, the ones that have held on to like traditional knowledge and stuff like that, they do have ways of living symbiotically in the environment. But I think that this promotes a little bit of the noble savage trope.
Yeah, I think it does too. I mean, if I think anything is the key to saving the environment, it's going to be technology.
Absolutely, and in tandem with indigenous groups and stuff like this that actually want to fight against the Canadian state, because there are a lot of indigenous groups who benefit from the relationship with the Canadian state. Like sometimes, let's say they voted to have I don't know, like let's say an oil rig next to their territories. They're benefiting, some more than others, is what I'm trying to say. But they're all oppressed under the Canadian state, no matter what.
Capitalism with a red face is still capitalism.
Absolutely. So, and the same is true with natives, right? So, we must stand with radicals who combat fascism. Okay, this we already said. We must build the Antifa cells. Anarchists, wake up in the prison camps here. Sorry about that, comrades. We beat the fascists before, and we can beat them again. The Maoist street code is the foundation to building the necessary united fronts against the enemies of the revolution. And I love how it ends on a very optimistic note,
Yes.
So if there's any other comments you'd like to make, Jason, feel free.
No, that sums it up pretty good.
So that's it. We can look at some comments over here. Vosh literally said that making fun of Nazis is effective. Totally useless advice for you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, making fun of Nazis is fun.
Yeah, but is it effective? You know what I mean?
No, not really.
It's not effective in any type of like. But yeah, as
I mean, I can possibly see what he means in terms of like a narrative or like controlling the popular conscious. But I mean, anybody who's a fascist is going to be a fascist, and anybody who's anti-fascist is going to be an anti-fascist. Yeah, but I mean, in the end, which is really going to be more effective? Bash the fash or
laugh at the fash?
Laugh the fash.
Yeah, I'd say bash. I like bash. All right, so that's it. Anyways, yeah, so this has gone, it's about an hour and 15 minutes. Honestly, I would like to keep it going longer, but I do have to attend a protest today, so I need to get ready for that. Okay. But, so Jason, I appreciate you coming on.
No problem.
Honestly, like it was a great fucking opportunity to talk to you, and I'd like to do it again. Absolutely. If ever there's anything you want to talk about, you let me know, and we'll set it up. No problem.
All right, absolutely. I'll hit you up.
All right. Is there any last words you'd like to give?
Solidarity.
Solidarity, comrades.